going on, guys? It is Livid. Hope you're all doing very well today, and welcome back to another vendor reset video where I just show you everything that I think is worth buying from the vendors this week. This is going to be the shortest vendor reset video I think I've ever done. This week is very subpar. There really aren't that many items for sale. There's a couple blueprints that are worth it, but I'm not really going to be showing those to you. I have a separate blueprint guide that you guys can go and watch to just see what blueprints are actually worth buying over others. I could revisit that and see if it needs updating, but for the most part, I think it's pretty spot on. So we're going to start off here in the base as we normally do. There's only one item here that I would recommend, and I do recommend it pretty frequently, I've noticed, is the Cassidy. We do have one with responsive already rolled, so I would just change capable over to unforgiving, and you could use this for Lone Star. If you're working on shotgun kills, you could use this on like your open world boss route with Lone Star. But this is actually pretty fun in PvP if you can put the build the way that you want it to. Otherwise, that is everything at this vendor. Unfortunately, we are going to head over to the advanced weaponry vendor. And the advanced weaponry vendor over here at the base does have an M700 carbon. It has balanced, meticulous, and elevated. There's a couple different things you could do with this. I definitely think that balanced is worth keeping. This is even something that you could use on sentry. You could just change meticulous over for something like prepared, or deadly or destructive, and it would work. You can also use this for Hunter's Faith if you're looking for a good gun for that. Meticulous will help keep that Hunter's Faith bonus going for as long as you can. So this is something to consider, and usually a carbon with balance I will always recommend anyway, because that one is good for... That one you could use for anything. You could even pop that on a striker build for distance. I like to put that on for Times Square sometimes for the snipers. But yeah, in general, this is not a bad buy for this week. Our next stop is going to be over at Camp Hudson. We don't have anything at Camp Clinton that I would recommend, unfortunately. This vendor is selling a 6% first aid self-heal mod. You can use these primarily in PvP, but they could work for PvE as well. Like if you're not running a flashbang and you have nothing else to use, you could definitely use this if you're running in the booster. So you could use this for like sentry, you know, whatever. Or even if you're doing like solo stuff, like if you're doing solo striker, you could use the first aid self-heal and just use a booster, and that would work out fine. But that's everything here. So we are going to head up to Autumn's Hope. Autumn's Hope does have a pretty decent Relentless backpack for us. You just have to change the stamina over to electronics. And then we already have skill power here with ammo capacity. I personally am in favor of Disrupt on the minor attribute roll. Obviously, we don't have that option, so you could just keep ammo capacity and just change this over to electronics. And Relentless is really good for your tactician builds, especially when you're using the Seeker Mines, or the turret, or really the BFB as well will work. But the Relentless is going to keep you healed consistently, so it's a pretty good one to use. Next, we're going to head down here to the Last Call Safe House. Last Call, this one is pretty hit or miss, but I mean, it is a lightweight M4, so I did want to include it. This one is commanding, talented, and brutal. Honestly, the only thing that I really considered using this with is just keep commanding and brutal and roll off talented here. You could do like destructive or deadly, maybe. And you could use this for a commanding determined build. You would just have to have two different weapons, and you would have to swap to your secondary to get determined. Otherwise, like keeping talented doesn't really work with this. Commanding and talented obviously don't really work with this. So I think that the best option is just changing talented over to something different. And then you would have to have a secondary weapon with determined on the bottom to benefit from that commanding determined method. Our next stop is going to be right next door over at the Ward. The Ward is selling... Why does it seem like the Ward always has our damage to elite mods? It's kind of funny. But the Ward is selling our only DTE mod this week. We have Electronics 187, very low, and it's also a 3%. I mean, 3% is whatever, but yeah, 187 is very low. I still, however, recommend buying it if it's your only option, and in this case, in this week, it is. So if you guys just got the game, you just got to level 30, make sure you guys buy these. Even though it is a stat roll that's really low, it's still going to increase the damage to elite value by a lot. So make sure you guys buy these. You can use these for pretty much any build. It's just obviously going to benefit more of a skill build. So make sure you guys are throwing these on your tactician builds. You can even use these to help unlock commanding on your commanding determined builds because you need a little bit of electronics for that. So definitely recommend purchasing these. It's going to add 15% overall damage value to elites, which is a decent amount. Make sure you guys pick those up. Our last location is East 58th Street in the Dark Zone. This is going to be our only Dark Zone checkpoint this week, meaning that this is our last stop. And this vendor is selling an invented backpack. You guys know me, I don't usually like to recommend gear in the Dark Zone, but if it's decent enough, I'll make sure to include it. Especially with a week as little as this. I want to make sure to give you guys all of these somewhat decent picks that I can. And these ones are good. So we do have skill power, ammo capacity, Just change this over to electronics and then you're all set. Generally, my rule is if it's a gear item for sale in the dark zone, and if it's something you can instead craft, always craft it first. Like if you guys have the backpack blueprints, it doesn't even need to be an electronic backpack. You could do a stamina or a firearm one and just try and get lucky with this setup. It is obviously harder, but I say that it's more worth your time than farming up all of these dark zone credits to buy it. If you think that you're like pretty close to this, I suppose you could go for it. But generally, if it's gear versus weapons, I always say to leave it for weapons because there's less weapon blueprints in the game than there are gear blueprints. I just like to include these because if you have a lot of dark zone credits and you have nothing to spend them on, by all means, come buy this if you need it. Otherwise, I would say to craft this instead. There you guys have it. That is everything that I think is worth buying from the vendors this week. You guys saw it was... I mean, I did say it's going to be my shortest vendor reset video, right? So hopefully there's something in there that is worth your time. If not, there's nothing for you this week. There is always next week. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.